So today is so good. We are going to speak about the importance of work ethic, how to manage a business life, the importance of thinking and the conscience during the different stages of business. Rich, could you please introduce yourself and what do you do for business?
My name is Rich Henkels. I'm currently a full-time actor and a teacher and a coach, and I also run an acting group. I have been doing this for about 4.5 years. Prior to that, I spent 20 years in the contracting business as a salesperson for a technology sales company. And before that, I spent 15 years in doing TV news, during which I was a sportscaster. So this is my third career, and I've reinvented myself a couple of times, and I'm hoping to make this one really, really stick and last me well into my 80s or 90s.
That is great. So my first question, how is your feeling now? You're being an actor and a trainer in the, let's say, cinematic scene.
I love what I'm doing. It is not easy. I will not kid you. I'm one of 12 kids, and my family is a bit stunned at how I've made myself work in this engagement. You know, you get up in the morning. Today's a typical day. I got up at 7 o'clock. As much as I wanted to lay in bed, I couldn't sleep. That's not because I had a job to do, but it's because I had the job of finding work. So I spent a number of hours today trying to make phone calls, trying to connect, submitting to websites, all the things that go into trying to find full-time acting or modeling work. And but I say that while it is very, very challenging and very, very hard, the one thing you do know is that it's only going to work if you're committed to it. No one else is doing anything for you. So it's not like there's a team you're falling back on. It is you. So you go to bed every night, as I do, knowing that I did everything I could do today to make tomorrow better, or 2 weeks better, or 6 months better, or whatever the case might be, depending on the job. So I love and this is a great stage for me to be in at this age.
Okay, throughout your experience, you insist on or you focus on being prepared for all the opportunities. How challenging is that?
Well, preparation is really it's a mindset. You either are or you are not. People who think they're prepared are not prepared, because there's a level of consciousness, I think, that goes into really knowing that you are prepared. When I submit for any kind of an acting job or modeling job, I always write the same thing in every one. I say, first and foremost, professional. I will arrive on time, prepared, and wardrobe ready, because I know in my industry those are three things that have to happen. Jobs are dependent on people being on time, being prepared, and being wardrobe ready. So I look at it as though it's part of your culture, personal culture. I don't know where people grow up, and everybody's got their own background, but your personal culture is something that you can hone and you can manage. And I find it absolutely essential that to be truly professional, I have to be truly prepared. And so I take stock in that every day.
Okay, now you have been through different jobs, like, and you know the experience, like, how much hard work should you do every day? Like, how much, let's say, a long-term plan, how much effort should you put in this every day?
I think any day that you think you haven't worked hard enough is a day missed. It's a day lost. It's an opportunity lost. And the reason why I say that is because I have found that there's many experiences for me in the last 5 years where at 4:45 I'm this close to saying I'm done. I'm done for the day. But then I send out one more email, or I reach out to somebody, and bam, something happens. I get an opportunity. Somebody returns a call. That happened tonight, actually. I took a walk. I came back. I fired up my computer, and two things came up that I have to do tomorrow for potential jobs. So I guess the answer to the question is you always have to work hard. There's never a moment when you shouldn't and couldn't, especially if you're doing something you really love and enjoy. And in the end, if you always are doing that, things are going to happen, and you'll know when it is time to turn it off for the day.
And how important is the focus on details?
Details are, well, you know the old saying, the devil is in the details. And there's nothing more true than that as far as I'm concerned. Here's a really great example. Casting directors casting directors are oftentimes the people that make or break us. We feel like we're perfect for a role, and we go in, we audition, we get a call back, and the casting director, you make an impression on them. Either you make a good one or a bad one. But the one thing you can't afford to do is not follow their directions. And their directions are really, really detailed. So much so that, and here's really the example comes into play. We are asked now as actors to do self-tapes, which means this blue background behind me is my background, and I do self-tapes. There's a camera in front of me and a lighting system and a microphone and everything else. So I'm doing a self-tape for my audition. That self-tape is labeled. It's an MP4 file, right? And it has to be labeled exactly right. If they say first name, last name, underscore role, and I put first name, last name, hyphen role, I'm out. If I put first name, last name, underscore, my agent's name, underscore, the role that I'm auditioning for, I'm out. If I can't follow simple directions, that's a big determinant for them. That's a really good example, and it's a micro example, but I really believe that if you pay attention to the details, the bigger picture comes into focus. It's not different than a mosaic or anybody who's into neo-impressionism painting and pointillism. You know, when you're right up to it, you see the details and you focus on the details. When you step back, you don't see the details anymore. You see this beautiful picture. And that is what your career should be. It should be the combination of a bunch of details coming together.
That is awesome. Okay, so my next question is, how important are victories, even if little victories in life or business?
Without little victories, you don't get big victories because they're the ones that feed your soul. You get a cup of coffee and you walk away from the place where you bought it and it tastes just perfect. It's a victory because most times it doesn't taste just perfect, right? There's just maybe a little more acid, a little less cream, a little this, a little that, but it doesn't taste great. So that's not a victory, that's a loss. I think that everything in life is a series of little victories and you have to celebrate them. So for me, when I'm auditioning or I send in if I get an audition, I consider it a victory. It means they've chosen me over someone else or some other people. They're getting 1,000 submissions. And if they're going to audition 50, well, then I'm 1/20th of the group that succeeded. So that's a little victory. And then to get a call back means I'm one of maybe 5 from the audition that get that. And so now it's another little victory. I believe if you don't celebrate little victories in life, you will not experience big ones. And secondly, if you don't celebrate little ones, the option there is taking them for granted. And life is too short to take good things for granted. We all need to just step back, recognize the goodness in life, and appreciate it and express that outwardly because that's how we give back to the world.
Perfect. And how do you see the relationship between conscience, and taking decisions?
A lot of people think that your conscience is, you know, just a general idea or general guide to your life. I don't think it is. Even if you're not a very religious person, most people say, well, I really trust my gut. But sometimes their gut can be driven by a lot of different things. I don't think your gut and your conscience are the same things. Your conscience is something that does know right from wrong. And it is a good judge of character of other people. So when you're going through life and you think maybe you didn't give 100%, your conscience is telling you didn't, you probably didn't. And you need to pay attention to that and always be in a position to step up a little bit more. In the end, your conscience will guide you. I truly believe that that is the truth. The days that I walk away from something and it gnaws at me a little bit, or the days that I know I didn't follow my conscience, and who knows what I left on the table. I may have left an opportunity. I may have left a chance to meet somebody. A really good example. I met a guy He's a very famous actor. It shooting on the set of Homeland, and I remember having a conversation with him, and I asked him, so how often do you get in conversations like this? And he goes, I always feel bad if I don't. And I go, why is that? And he says, because I know I can give something to somebody. And so I follow my conscience. He says, I love having conversations like this because this is what I can do for the rest of the world. I think if we follow our consciences, in the end, we end up not just serving ourselves, but we end up serving the world as a whole.
How do you look at the, let's say, the effect or the help from others, whether it's small help or a big help?
That gets down to one thing and one thing only: gratitude. You know, how many times have you not said thank you to somebody who did something small for you? Well, two things happen when you do say thank you. One is it 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 resonates within you. You start to realize, without people doing things for you, we all fail. Successful people are not successful because they did it all. They're successful because all the people around them or working with them and for them have also done their job. And showing gratitude feeds people and it feeds yourself. So it to me is it's almost like a snowball. If you get an organization or coworkers that are all feeling good about each other and they're thankful and I realize that I can't do it without you and you and you, that's going to make me do my job better. And so I think you're always better off recognizing the little things that people do as well as the big. The big are more measurable, but it's often the little things that end up snowballing into something big that makes a difference in more lives than you can imagine.
And how would civility help?
Without civility, you've got nothing. Civility is the ability to be kind when you don't want to be kind, when your emotions are telling you otherwise, sometimes when rationality is telling you otherwise. Civility is a lost art in some cases. I think all you have to do is look at the US government in that case. I mean, not to get political, but the last 4 years, it's been uncivil. We have three branches of government and at least two of them don't agree. And the third one is developed by the first. It's civility is the cornerstone of community. And we all have to care about each other. And even if we don't agree with each other, being civil is essential. We learn it through our parents in most cases. I mean, that's where the breakdown of the family structure, and I don't want to get overly philosophical with you here, but the breakdown of the family structure in the world has dealt a lethal blow to civility because it really is our parents and our family that teach us kindness and understanding toward one another. And without kindness and understanding, we're going to be a lot less forgiving and a lot more demanding of other people. And that is not a good place for society as a whole. That's my humble opinion.
Okay, throughout your, let's say, business experience and all of these like human sides you are focusing on and you are, let's say, recommending, what kind of recommendations would you give to, let's say, the new graduates or the people who are about to start their businesses or people who are looking to achieve their dreams?
The very first thing I would tell anybody is be honest. Be honest. If it kills you, be honest. Because your word is one thing that only you have. And that is the mark of truth. And if you give it up and you lie or you get caught lying, you can't be trusted at all moving forward. And that is just a fact of business. Human nature doesn't allow most people to forgive very easily. And in business, if you've been crossed once, you're sure as heck not going to get a second chance, especially if it's a big deal. That's why um, honesty is important on a personal level because that's your practice ground. If you're honest with your family, you're honest with your kids, your spouse, your friends, if you don't, a small lie is as big as a big lie because it plants the seed. If I got away with the small one, I might get away with the large one. The truth is, don't do it at all because as soon as you implant in you an appreciation for truth and integrity is the real word here, then you've taken an enormous step forward. So when you finish your degree and you get out in the real world, just promise yourself you'll always be true to yourself and you'll always be honest to others. And it's a huge step forward.
Okay, after you have traded more than one business, you decided to jump into acting. Was this late?
Why this late?
What was it late?
What was it? I'm sorry, what was it like?
What was it late? Like, did you decide to join acting at a later stage in your life? That's my question.
No,
I should, yeah.
that's a good question. I got into acting because after 20 years in my other career, I was done. I did not enjoy it anymore. I wasn't as committed as I wanted to be. I was in an organization that I didn't feel I fit very well, and I started to recognize that I was not a good addition to that organization any longer. And I realized that they're not going to continue to forge forward with me there. And I was one of the leaders, and I realized that I wasn't going to be happy and they weren't going to be successful. So it was time for me to change. Now, I spent roughly 2 years, almost 3, trying to figure out what my exit strategy was going to be. And once I found that exit strategy, I gravitated back toward the media. I did some radio work, and from the radio work, I got into acting, and from the acting work, I got into modeling. So one thing led to another. I was very lucky. It was a very smooth transformation. But success is measured in different ways. Financially, it's much different now than it was. I was making a lot of money at the time, and really enjoyed making a lot of money. But now I'm successful in a different way, and I sleep better at night, and I'm pursuing a different set of dreams.
Okay, so my question is like, would you recommend this kind of business transfer to everybody, like at certain stages of their lives?
I think at some stages of your life, you have to recognize you have to be happy doing what you do, or you have to have a mission, you have to have a goal, you have to have a purpose. In all of my transitions, I had, when I went from being a sportscaster, a newscaster after 15 years to being a corporate sales executive, the reason was I got fired from my TV jobs. And then I quit because I wasn't happy doing it. So my last TV job, I resigned because I wasn't happy. And I was raising a small child. And I realized I need to be able to focus on my son. So then I got the second career going. And I was raising 2 sons at that point. And then I got divorced and became a single father. And so it afforded me the luxury of working hard, making good money, and still being able to be a dad. And being a father at that time was the single most important thing in my life. I did work very, very hard, and I made good money, and I was very successful. But after 15 years of that, I started to realize that now I want my sons to see a father that's not just successful, but enjoys his work. So that's when I started to search for the next step. And I did take 2 or 3 years to do it. And ultimately, I found the solution. So I ended up becoming a full-time actor when my oldest son or youngest son was a senior in high school, and my oldest son was in college. So now they have seen me for the last 4 to 5 years do something I really, really enjoy. I'm pretty successful at, and it's given them perspective that I reinvented myself twice now. And I think that's an important thing for my kids to see. And it's also been a lot of fun for me. I mean, I have no regrets. Is it something everyone should do? If you're prepared to do it, you're willing to make the commitments, but you always have to leave it all out on the field. You know what I mean by that? You never leave a job without leaving it, putting everything you can into it. And I did everything I could in all of my jobs before I left. That's something I take pride in.
It has been more than awesome and more than amazing talking to you, Rich, and taking these amazing moments from your time. Thank you so much for that indeed.
My pleasure. My pleasure.